Hey guys, thank you for tuning in, everyone. Little backstory, I just had a friend visit from California for a week or so, and we were hanging out one day and just kind of speaking about our lives, and something came up that reminded me of a story of when I was in college. I was maybe, I'm gonna guess about 19 or 20 years old, but I could have been 21, can't really remember. Uh, so the story begins in the University of Rhode Island. I was on the soccer team, just giving you a little history of how this all came to manifest. This will go under my Stranger Than Fiction uh, playlist on my YouTube. So if you guys are familiar with some of the crazy stories that I've told on there that are all true, this is another one in this series. So I'm in college, playing on the soccer team. Uh, as it is in the United States and I guess the world at this current point, athletes are the ones that are admired by the guys that aren't playing the sports. Well, the people that aren't playing the sports that enjoy sports, and of course, women. Whether it's uh, wanting to be on an in crowd or wanting to have kind of exclusive access to things, or just because we're fit and from all over the planet and we come together to form this team while everybody else is just going to college. The athletes seem to be the most desired people to be around in university and professional settings, of course, and when you get to the professional level, they're also paid very highly, so they're affluent. But in college, we're not paid, so it's really based on social merit. And there's another aspect of colleges which is based on social merit, um, but not necessarily achievement to get there. So an athlete has to be one of the most elite, trained, and disciplined people growing up in their area, and then they start to funnel into these teams, whether it's a club team or a select team or a state team or an Olympic development team for whatever sport they're playing. And then when you get to university, there's three divisions. There's third division, which is non-scholarship, which is kind of just like recreational and fun. Occasionally, those guys and girls go to the next level of professional, but very rarely. Division two, second division is typically a little more unregulated. So you get people that might have skipped out on college for a few years. They want to go back now, or weren't necessarily skilled enough to get into Division One, or intelligent enough, didn't have the grades to get into good Division One school, but still wanted to play at a somewhat elite level. And typically, a higher level Division Two player is always trying to find their way to a Division One school to transfer. I was lucky enough and graced, by the universe and God enough to have gotten into a Division One soccer program, and also into a college that offered me academic scholarship. And this is after my accident. So if you know anything about my accident, it was right before my high school graduation. So I had already committed to University of Rhode Island to play soccer. I was, doing all the preseason preparations, and then we get to preseason about, I think it was August 13th, 2003, and then the rest of the students come the first or second week of September. So at this point, it's I think it's my first year in college, but it could have been my second or third. I don't really recall the exact dates of this. I guess I could look it up because there is a permanent record, not mine, but a permanent record of the events that I'm going to discuss in this video. So, long story short, I'm in college and I'm not a terrible looking person. I'm quite charming, and of course, we've got 10,000 people at the university focused on 30 people on the soccer team, who are interested, and we're highlighted, we're spoken about, on local television, on radio, and in the school newspaper, and all this different stuff. So the athletes are quite famous on campus in a Division One college. If you know anything about U.S. Division One sports, the athletes are famous. There's no other way to put it. So, that said, there's interest coming from everywhere. And in my classes, I have, classes with other athletes, I have classes with people in sororities and fraternities, and just general population as well. So, to my point, that other kind of community is the Greek life, sororities and fraternities. So, the typical fraternity guys, at least from my experience in the early 2000s, were not always the most popular people. They were not always the most virtuous people. They were not obviously very skilled at sports because they couldn't make it onto a Division I sports team. So they tried to find this group of community elsewhere, and it's usually like a pay for friends type thing. Like you pay to be in this fraternity, and then you have this automatic group of friends that you're around. Now, as a result, I think these guys got kind of a skewed reality, and they were known. Most fraternities were known at my college and in the Northeast in the United States at that time as not being very good human beings as far as taking advantage of women, using drugs to induce women into sleep with them, which is called date rape. And they had a really, really, really bad reputation for that because they did it, quite simply. At University of Rhode Island, it was pretty bad, and they really had pride behind being these sleazeball human beings. Now that said, obviously, when girls would find out about this, and sorority girls in sororities knew these guys, they wouldn't want to hang out with them. But of course, the guys in the fraternities would desire these attractive women. So, these attractive women in sororities, who were usually quite intelligent, and there was a different vibe between the sororities and fraternities. The sororities usually got together because they were like-minded, they were in similar majors, they had similar goals, similar interests. The guys tended to get together because of their alignment and lack of virtue, is all I can say. And there was a couple fraternities that got together because of intellectual standards, but those were not the popular or cool fraternities as they like to see themselves. So these guys would have all these parties with these girls, they'd take advantage of them, do dirty stuff, and blah, 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 blah. The sorority girls were keen to this, and they didn't want to hang out with these guys, so they would be more interested in the athletes, the physically well-developed, the disciplined men, the popular, quote-unquote, men, and the people that were more likely to be successful after college, quite simply. I, being one of these guys, was quite popular amongst the sorority women, girls. Usually the ones that were older than me for whatever reason. I've always kind of had this thing where older women were more into me than the girls in my generation. I don't know why. So in college it's the same thing. So I start to catch wind that there is a certain fraternity of guys that are saying they're going to beat me up and jump me if they ever see me. And one of my teammates, who had some friends in this fraternity, because he wasn't necessarily the most virtuous person in the world, and he liked that frat lifestyle, came up to me one day and he said, "Hey man, like, be careful with these guys and stop talking bad about these guys because they're coming after you." And I kind of laughed it off, and I'm like, sure, let them. Like, there's nothing that I'm afraid of amidst these guys and whoever they are, no matter how many there are of them, because these are kids from like Massachusetts and Connecticut, and they all went to private schools, and they don't know real life. And I'm a public school kid from North Jersey that grew up around gang members and immigrants and people that were from all over the world that were actually legitimately tough. So I wasn't afraid of these guys, and my friends were all on the football team and basketball team, so if these idiots ever tried anything, I wasn't afraid. But nonetheless, you're always looking over your shoulder because these are cheap shot human beings, which means they're not going to approach you from the front. They're going to punch you in the back of the head when you're at a bar or something, or they're going to come up to you with 10 guys on one person and try to jump, as they used to do back in the day. So I'm looking over my shoulder for a couple months, and then rolls around. So this is, I started hearing this probably in September when we were first in school, and then for Halloween, I think it was Halloween or Thanksgiving, somewhere around that time, so late October, early November, I went home for the weekends to New Jersey, and one of my high school friends, she had just moved with her family to like this redneck town, like 45 minutes from where we grew up, Lakeland High School, Ringwood, Wanacue, Haskell area in Passaic County. So she's now living up in Sussex County, which is like all these rednecks and hunters and types of people like that. Irrelevant. So she hosts this party, It's like a Halloween kind of themed party, pimps and hoes party. This was a thing back in the 2000s. It might still be a thing, but the girls would dress up as hoes and the guys would dress up as pimps. So that's kind of the fun of the party. So I'm dressed up in like a Party City clad kind of pink pimp outfit, hat. I had this like, cane I got at Party City that had a big fake diamond on the top, and it was just a really funny themed party. And my friend just moved to this town, so it was like a welcome to the town party, and she invited a lot of the local people that she was going to school with and the local college at the time. So a ton of people that I had never met before, and a handful of people from our area. So I drove up there. I'm planning to sleep at this house because I'm gonna get drunk and smoking weed and whatever else, and I'm just okay. I'm gonna sleep on a couch or something and stay here for the night. Fast forward a little bit, I'm down. So this is a two-story house, and there's like a wraparound porch deck, and I'm down on the ground level, and I'm really, really drunk at some point. Remember, dressed as a pimp, an all pink outfit, like fluffy, kind of puffy stuff, and and talking to a female, a girl. I don't know, I don't recall who she was. I think she was one of the locals that I had just met, and we're just having a conversation. And all of a sudden, like this commotion's going on, and two guys rip through the railings, the wood railings of the deck on the second level, and collapse to the ground. Like someone tackled the other one. So all of a sudden we're like, what the hell? I'm kind of laughing because where I grew up there was fights all the time and it's just a part of life. But that's kind of serious, like coming down from a second level and one of these guys like landed on his head. Somehow I realized, oh my God, that's my friend's older brother, and he's the one that I think got tackled off of the deck and landed like on his head on the ground with the other guy on top of him. Come to find out, he broke his neck in that fall, but his adrenaline was running, and he just got tackled off of a deck at his own house. So he runs inside. I don't know what's going on at this point, and this girl's like freaking out a little bit, and I just remember slightly recalling saying, like, don't worry about it, this shit happens all the time. And the next thing you hear is a whole bunch of gunshots, and he had ran inside and grabbed like a rifle or something and was just letting off shots. I thought he was just shooting into the air to calm this other guy down and to like say, hey, listen, this is my house, you're not gonna fuck with me, which, understandable. Well, long story short, one of those shots ripped through a car door and hit a girl that was trying to leave in the foot or the leg or something. And everybody panics and they get out of there and everybody leaves, and maybe 5-10 minutes later everybody's gone, and my friend is now here and a couple of our other friends from Lakeland are there, and my friend's brother is there, and he's got blood pouring down, and he's just not looking good, and they're like, we got to get him to the hospital. So he goes off to the hospital with one of the girls. Now, I'm at the house, and I think 2 or 3 other of our girlfriends from high school are still there. And we're like, okay, it's over. It's done. Because we're up in the woods. Like, nobody's even going to find out about that. These people are all hunters anyway, so there's always gunshots going off. It is what it is. Fast forward a few more minutes. Probably 10 New Jersey State Trooper cars pull up to the house. And I don't know the timeline, but at some point, all of these state troopers are at the house, and I'm just chilling there at this point. And I have like a similar look, like a shaved head, and maybe a couple tattoos at that point, like this one, and probably my forearm tattoo and stuff. So these cops, these state troopers, came up, hearing that a guy, a bald-headed, shaved-head white guy with some tattoos, was the one doing the shooting. I'm the only guy there at the party, still at the house. So they have me in an interrogation, literally shining flashlights in my face. I'm surrounded by at least 10, maybe 15 state troopers, like screaming at me with a document in front of me that they're trying to coerce me to sign, that's admitting that I was the shooter, and then they can take me in. and they're lying. They're doing their typical cop shit, saying the other girls who they separated us all to get everybody's stories, and they said the girls said that I was the one that was the shooter, which I knew wasn't true because these girls would never do that to me. They would never throw me under the bus, even if I did something, but let alone like when I didn't do something. They would never do that. And I thought for a second, maybe they're scapegoating me because it was the girl's brother, but I'm like, no, there's no way, because he's going to the hospital and he's going to tell them at the hospital what happened. So they're going to be able to patch this story together at some point, so they wouldn't do that. There's absolutely no way. So I was like, no, my friends are not that stupid or disloyal. They would never do that. And I'm laughing at the police at this point, and they're yelling at me, this isn't funny, a girl got shot. I said, listen, I have total compassion and empathy for the girl that got shot. I didn't know that was something that happened, and I apologize that I was here at this party, but I'm laughing because I'm being interrogated for a shooting that I did not do, that I did not commit, while dressed like a pimp, completely wasted, drunk. I was like, this is ridiculous to me. This is like, I can't believe this is happening. This is ridiculous, and I know I'm innocent, and it's hilarious to me. I'm not laughing at the girl that got shot. I'm laughing at the fact that I'm sitting dressed like a pimp, and you guys are interrogating me for attempted murder at this point and assault with a deadly weapon. I was like, and all of it is just a huge divine joke and mistake. And so they're yelling at me, we know you did it, we know you know where the gun is, we know the blah, blah, blah. I said, listen, I don't know anything. I'm fucking wasted. I don't know how many of you there are because I can't even see straight right now. I can't even count how many of you there are. I just want to go to sleep, and I'm trying to say whatever I can say to try to get them out of my face so I can literally go lay down on the couch and just pass out while the rest of this night transpires. So anyway, they find out it wasn't me. They wind up leaving. They probably went to the hospital and so on, and my friend's brother ended up going to jail for a couple years after that. So, what was meant to happen happened. And as far as I know, the girl was fine and she survived and no long-term damage and she got fixed up. But none of my business, regardless. So anyway, this is like a Saturday night. On Monday, I'm back in University of Rhode Island, going to college, and I'm in class. And I notice some of these guys, these frat guys, see me on campus, and immediately they kind of get frazzled and they dart off to the side. And I was like, a couple weeks ago, I heard these guys were going to jump me. Like, they were acting all tough and talking all tough to everybody behind my back. And now they're running from me on campus. So classes end for me, athletes, at like 2 o'clock. And then we go down to the field house and get ready for practice. And at 3 o'clock to like 5:30, 6 p.m., we're all in training. We have practice. And this guy comes up to me that's on my team, and he goes, yo, I heard some shit happen this weekend. And I was like, what? I was like, how did anybody in Rhode Island hear what happened? Because none of my friends that were at this party have any communication with anybody at my college, and it wouldn't have been in like a newspaper or anything in Rhode Island from New Jersey. So I'm like, what is going on here? I was really confused. And a few more days go by, and I'm at dining halls on campus, and I continue to see these frat idiots, and they are avoiding me like they're terrified of me. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? And long story short, and I forget how I wound up catching wind of this, but one of the state troopers, a higher up, I don't know what they call him, a captain or whatever, his son happened to be one of these frat guys. So Sunday, this police officer calls his son up at college and says, hey, do you know a Tobin Osuski? And he goes, yeah. Now he's getting all nervous, this frat kid. He goes, why, Dad? And the dad proceeds to tell him, yesterday, I responded to a shooting at a party, and he was our prime suspect. A day later, this kid sees me on campus thinking, who the hell is Toby that can get away with a shooting and be back at college 2 days later? What type of attorney does he have? What type of criminal organization is he in? Is he some type of mob boss or crime lord? So these frat guys over the next 24 hours until they saw me were like, oh my God, Toby's shooting people in New Jersey, and we're talking shit behind his back in Rhode Island. So they're all nervous. The legend continues to grow because the father, continues to update the son and all this stuff. And these kids are seeing me on campus every day, just walking, stress free. They can't understand my disposition and how I shot somebody over the weekend and came back to college and I'm just acting cool and calm and I'm not in jail, I'm not dealing with any legal issues. They're terrified, absolutely fucking terrified of me. And it was this hilarious divine intervention of retribution karmically for these idiots talking shit about somebody, and then I never had to do anything. I literally did nothing, and they were terrified of me for the rest of my college career. And at some point, a couple years later, the son of the cop came up to me, and he apologized. His eyes like sunk down, wide open. He was looking like a little kid, all scared, that was lost at Disney World for a day, and finally found his parents. Like he didn't know if he was ever going to be found again. And he goes, I got to admit to you, man, me and every other guy in the frat has been terrified of you since we heard that story. And I go, you realize that wasn't me, that wasn't true, right? And he goes, yeah, but we also realized we probably shouldn't be messing with somebody that was involved in something like that. And I was like, oh man, you learned your lesson. Good. Fantastic. But point of the story is that I have experienced some crazy shit in my life. Literally stranger than fiction. You cannot write this stuff. And I just wanted to share that story because my friend found it really interesting, and other things happened because of that. I made certain friends who respected me because they heard that story, even though they knew it wasn't true. I would immediately admit to anybody that it wasn't me, that was the person that was the shooter. But they still respected me so much because they were like, we heard through the grapevine that this thing happened and that this frat was going to jump you, and all of a sudden they were terrified of you. And like, kudos to you, man, mad respect, because like those guys are assholes basically, and these were other people who had been fucked with by this frat and didn't necessarily have the divine grace following them that I had, and we became immediate friends after that. So it was this funny, ironic, fantastic, unbelievable thing that actually happened to me that I felt I wanted to share with you guys, so you know a little more about me and a little bit about my history, and understand who I am now in these videos, and how I wound up in this place, and how I have this clarity of vision and almost this grace following me, that I wind up in these really amazing situations, and amazing as far as like not always good, as far as like this is mind-blowing, this is like a fantasy, this is not real, and then it winds up being real and it turns out to be my life. And I'm just very grateful for a lot of these experiences because they've taken bad people out of my life and brought really good people that I care about and am friends with to this day into my life. And I think it's an interesting thing when you have good karma, nothing can really affect you in a negative way. And I think that's credit to doing the right thing always, and treating people right, and always being honest with people, and just being yourself. Mostly just be yourself always, and don't ever pretend for anybody, and don't ever fear anybody, because they don't know who you really are. Most of the time they don't know who they really are, and the reason someone's talking bad about you or trying to bully you is because they're intimidated by you. And this situation proved exactly that these guys were so intimidated by me that they wanted to spread rumors that they were all going to collectively beat me up, until they realized how intimidated they were by me, by this fantasy tale that had nothing to do with me, that they then backed off. So yeah, I guess the point of the story is bullies only try to bully you because they're scared of you. So remember that. Another stranger than fiction story about the life of Tobin Osuski. It really happened, real events.